Hi, and welcome to Make a Big Statement. Today we're going to be looking at some 2020 visual impression tips. If you are a brand new user of 2020 visual impression or you've been using it for a little while, I think I'll be able to share a couple new tips or techniques to help you maybe make visualizing your projects a little bit easier in your day-to-day. So one of the most exciting things in today's presentation is I'm actually going to show you how to create something like this. Yes, this is created in 2020 visual impression and one other small tool I'll show you in a second, but it literally takes a couple minutes. It is very, very quick and easy, but at the end of the day, I think it's just a really fun, engaging way of showing off your projects and the potential that can happen with the furniture that you're proposing. So we're going to be breaking it down and looking at a couple different things before this. First up, we want to talk about moving furniture. Then we're going to focus a little bit of time on materials, because what is visual impression without all of the finishes that we can render? Then we'll get to the fun stuff where we get to show off how to create that GIF or GIF. That was that animated view that you saw a moment ago. And then if you have any additional questions, I've got some future resources you'll want to check out at the end. So first up, let's talk about the new feature, furniture movement. Now, I call this a new feature, but it's actually been out for a little while. I just have found that a lot of people don't realize it's there. So first note I'm going to mention is, regardless of what software you use, if you use 2020 Giza, 2020 Cap, or 2020 Cap Complete, everything I'm going to show today is available to everyone. Today I do have a drawing that is shown in 2020 Cap Complete, and I can't take credit for the furniture layout. It is a typical that I borrowed from the Trendway website. Many of your manufacturers will have different typical layouts or idea starters on their website. I borrow those all the time. So with this example, quite often in the past, we were always told to really make sure that the furniture is laid out perfectly in the floor plan in the drawing before you go to visual impression. But thankfully, it's gotten a little bit easier. So for example, this desk right here is actually an adjustable height desk. There are some other pieces, like of course this storage piece does have wheels on the bottom, so it can be moved. So there are elements in here that maybe can evolve, or maybe you want to show them different ways depending on your client's needs. So if I don't have those preset in my drawing, I could change those as I need in visual impression. So when I open up visual impression, you'll notice that I already have a few things defined. Some of the finishes are already set, and I've also already taken a snapshot. So I'm going to cheat and zoom right into that. And now, when I look at this layout, like I mentioned, that work surface top is showing at a standing height, so that's great, but I did already adjust that. I also adjusted a couple of things, like sometimes you might bring in some items that you want to adjust, or in this case, this cushion, this mobile pedestal cushion, sometimes I find that they're floating just a little tiny bit above the pedestal that I want them to sit on. So here's a couple tips. First, when you select an item, of course, as you click through and you select, it'll highlight. It also tells you what you've selected in that bottom corner. But notice that there is a tool in the dashboard that's called Toggle Furniture Movement. Now, don't confuse this one with toggle collision detection. They're actually two different things, but they can be used simultaneously. I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. So the reason I'm pointing out this button is because right now it is not on, and I can tell that because it's not highlighted in any way. And I can also tell because when I select that top cushion, I actually can't do anything to it. I can't move it or adjust it like I just promised you. So let's turn on Toggle Furniture Movement. Now that it's highlighted, notice when I select that cushion, much different actions. I see some little arrows that would allow me to rotate it if I wanted to, but the one I really want to adjust here for a second is the up-down. So notice when I pull that up and down, if that was at maybe like a half an inch too tall and floating when I brought this in, I could really easily adjust that on the fly if I need to. The other thing is, if that item is not quite where I want it, I could select both And how did I do that? I just was holding down my control key as I selected each of these, and now I could adjust this or move this, pull it closer, pull it further away, whatever is needed for that kind of final portion of the presentation. Very, very quick and easy. Now, the other thing you want to keep in mind is sometimes when you have a lot of components that are all near each other, here we've got the adjustable base, there's a small divider, I have an accessory on top of here. So if I'm moving something up like this, that's easy enough, but bringing it back down is kind of tricky because it wants to automatically use the collision detection to try to help me place things like sometimes stacked on each other, sometimes right next to each other. Well, in this case, there's very, tight space to work within. So sometimes I will turn off that toggle collision detection just to be able to go through the items. Now, again, I have to kind of do this carefully to get past the laptop, but still kind of appear on top of the base of this example. And hopefully that is very close to where I had started with. Now, the other nice thing is if you ever do something and you go and you adjust it and you're like, oh, shoot, I didn't mean to do that by itself, you can always use the undo button and go back a step. So that's pretty easy. So moving furniture, hopefully that's very quick and efficient. So you don't have to go all the way back to the drawing to adjust it for every little small detail that you want to show the client. Okay, and now for our next tip is focusing on materials. Even though the project that I started with already has a lot of materials defined, of course I want to make more changes to this. Maybe the client has seen it and has some revisions. In this case, I'm going to zoom in nice and close and you'll see, even though I've already selected the cushion top and the chair, fabric, maybe we wanted a different chair fabric. And so often when we go in to select our materials, there are going to be options for additional grades that sometimes I want something that's maybe not available in this catalog, or some manufacturers will have different things like graded in seating fabrics where not all of these are preloaded in the software. So let's look at two things. First of all, if I am picking a specific level that's maybe additional, let's say I'm going to go for a momentum fabric, and there are quite a few of them in here, but notice that there was no actual swatch assigned to that. And I just happened to pick the first in the list, but just know it's a momentum fabric that we want to add. So the first thing I would do is actually go into Visual Materials and look to see if that momentum fabric is loaded. What do I mean by that? Well, we actually already have a lot of suppliers listed in Visual Impression, where if I come and I look under momentum, you can see that they've got quite a few of their different fabrics already preloaded in here, so I could leverage any of these. But of course, quite often when I'm looking for a particular material, it's because it's maybe recently released. It's a brand new finish. So I might have to go to their website and actually find that material. So I ran out to the Momentum's website and I found a fun new colorway called Topaz under the color wheel fabric. Now, in this case, we are super, super fortunate because this particular vendor has already preloaded some high resolution images. Not all of them offer that. Sometimes I will try to, of course, right click and save an image or use the snipping tool and snip the image off the screen, but always check to see if they offer a high resolution image because that is really going to save us a ton of time. That just saved into my downloads folder. And if I have something saved into my downloads folder, now all I need to do is load that into Visual Materials. So I'm going to look kind of at the bottom left-hand corner, and I already have a palette called Neocon, some finishes that I had previously used, and I can add my own finish right here. I just follow the screen, select that image that I just downloaded. Now it does make a difference on the type of finish. You'll want to make sure to select the type in that bottom right hand corner. This one happened to be a JPEG. I can select it and open that up. Now, what's really great too is right on the Momentum website is they give you the full repeat pattern that's shown on that image. So it was about 13.5 by 14.125. Let's just for time call that 14 inches. So I can come in here and type 14. Of course, I should probably give this a name, and I believe that was color Topaz. Save that. Now that I have that saved in Visual Materials, I can very quickly take that item, look at it under the Advanced menu, see that bright magenta color, that's just a layer color, but then quickly find that finish that I just saved in my Neocon palette and drag and drop it onto that layer. Now I can see the chair in that fabric and finish. Sometimes these will show up just perfect. Sometimes the pattern will be close. Notice if you really get close to it, you will see a repeat because that is just how that particular one comes in, unfortunately. But overall, when I'm looking at this space, I think it will give your client a really good indication of that bold pattern. Very fun. So really leveraging those visual materials can be just key to your presentations. And it's so nice because it's very easy to come back into those finishes. And if you make a mistake or want to adjust any of the properties, you can very quickly do that, save it again or save a copy of it. You can have multiple palettes. So if there's certain colorways or finishes that are commonly used for some of your clients or some of their typicals or the manufacturers that you specify the most, you can have palette for each of those. Notice I have a couple of those in here, but always check the materials at the top first because a lot of the suppliers do preload many of their finishes, so you might find something that's already there ready for you. Okay, now for the fun part. We're going to take our project and create a GIF or a GIF. There's a long-standing debate on how to say that word, but basically we want to kind of animate this project a little bit. So I'm going to go back into Visual Impression, and if you remember, I had a snapshot that I had already taken, and I like to just click on that to very quickly get back to that same view, because once you create a snapshot, it will remember that camera view for you. Huge time saver. But now here's what I'm going to do with that. Let's say that you've gone through and you've selected all of your finishes for your project. Then I can come in and of course set up how I want to render it. You can choose between 2-point and 3-point depending on the type of perspective you're working with. Of course, we're always working in standard quality for speed, but we can dial that up to high quality or high quality plus. High quality plus is really great when you're printing or if you just want to soften some of these shadow lines a bit, but for today, I'm okay with them. So let me just go ahead and take this first snapshot. So that first snapshot was looking at everything, all of the furniture pieces. To create a GIF, think about how you want that to build. So for example, I have basically gone through in mine and I've just kind of one at a time or maybe a couple at a time turned certain things off. So I feel like that little laptop accessory was kind of an icing on the cake, if you will. So it didn't need to be there, but it did add one more little bit of color. Sometimes when you put your logo on there and do different things, so I'm going to take a snapshot without the laptop. So then the next snapshot, let's do it without this storage piece on the side. So we'll just individually select each of those pieces and make those not visible. Take a snapshot from here and just keep going. The next piece, maybe without the chair, uncheck visible. Take a snapshot. Then without the desk, but again, it's a couple pieces, so we'll just individually uncheck those. Take a snapshot. Almost there. Let's go ahead and take out this storage piece, which just leaves us with the tall storage piece. And then of course take the tall storage piece out, which just leaves us with an empty room, but we do want to show them the space as well. Okay, what are we left with now? A bunch of images. Of course, I can quickly turn everything back on. The fastest way to do that is to change the visibility to show all. Perfect, there's everything. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn this back to standard quality so it's not trying to render that any longer and jump to presentation. Presentation is where it has collected each one of those snapshots that we were just working with. So now I could take any one of those and utilize that and show that to my client. Of course, in my example, I want to show them all of them, but I'm going to show them to them in a very methodical way by creating a GIF. So all I need to do is go through and select all of these images. You could go through and you can select all in this category, or you can select just the ones that you want. I'm not selecting the very first image because that was the standard quality one. I just want all my high quality images. Notice now that I've got them all selected, I can come down and say Save Selected. You can choose where they should be saved. For time right now, I'll just save this to my desktop because it'll be easy to delete those later. Now, what do I do with those images? You can either bring them into PowerPoint or Canva if you don't already have PowerPoint. But PowerPoint's probably the easiest. I can go ahead and open up a brand new PowerPoint. So I'm just going to say blank presentation. And in this blank presentation, don't worry too much about us being in PowerPoint. You literally don't need to have any PowerPoint skills for this next thing. I have two buttons really to focus on. One is once you've opened this, you can say, I'd like to insert a photo album. A photo album is key because this is really going to speed up our process, and just simply go ahead out to our desktop and look for those images that we just saved. So in this case, it was these entire designs. Insert those. Now, right now, they're actually preset in here kind of backwards to how I want them. So if you wanted, you could go through here and you could arrange them the way that you kind of want to show them. You could also do this in the PowerPoint if you're comfortable working in PowerPoint. In my case, I just want them to kind of show the numbers descending, so that way it goes from essentially a blank room, a room with one item, a room with two items, and so on. So all I'm doing is going through and making sure this goes 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So easy because they were already numbered. Now the really nice thing, those numbers, I didn't set that up. That was all preset in Visual Impression automatically. You can change those names in Visual Impression, but it's not needed. In this case, I'm going to hit Create, and it has created a photo album for me with all of those images preset. Now it does by default pull everything into like a black background. Don't worry about that right now, but I am going to delete that very first slide. What you do with that slide, you could create like an intro if you wanted to, but I'm going to try to focus really on just the furniture as it could be built out. And don't worry about the black background. We can remove that when we export it. Now, all I need to do is take this and choose Export. And in the Export menu, there's a Create Animated GIF. And we're almost there. What type do I want? You can pick all these different sizes. Keeping in mind, of course, small is great if you're emailing it or sharing it, but large is wonderful if you're presenting this on a big screen. So in my case right now, I am going to choose at least large, but we're going to go extra large because I'm going to pull this back into maybe a future presentation. Here's that make background transparent. That's why I said don't worry about that black background. Doesn't matter. You can even change the duration of how long should it take before it flips to the next slide. I would do 1 second minimum. You can go a little bit greater than that though if you'd like. And then which slides do you want to be in this GIF? I'm going to include all of them. I just click Create GIF, and literally in a few seconds, let's call this Neocon GIF, and I'll save this to my desktop. In just a few seconds, it is now done. So I can go out to my desktop, or I can just go grab this from my folder here. So I can pull that over, and let's take a look. There's my GIF. All of those slides automatically play. I'm not clicking, I'm not moving my mouse right now. It's just automatically playing through that. What could you do with this? This could be brought back into a PowerPoint deck if you are doing a formal presentation for a client. That GIF file is also something that is really, really resourceful or super easy to use if you're publishing different things to social media or to other areas that you're trying to show off some of the maybe new furniture that you've just seen this year at Neocon, or the new items that are being introduced from for your particular client. So just a really fun way to show it off and show some of your rendering projects throughout. So just like that, our time is almost up. It's gone by so fast, and we have so many more tips to share. If you haven't seen already, we do have a new training platform that you are welcome to register for, where you have access to quite a few classes and free courses and webinars. So depending on your level, some of the courses are paid, but not all of them. When you go out to learning.2020spaces.com/office-us, it will take you to our training platform. The first time you're out here, it does require you to register. That's not tied to your 2020 account yet, but it's just simply entering a little bit of information and your email address. Once I sign in, I will be able to browse through a collection of courses or even search for specific courses. So as you can see, there are a number of courses on the homepage. If you're looking for something more with visual impression, here is where our paid classes. The cool thing about the paid classes is you are with an instructor online, so you can ask any questions that you need. But if you're looking for something for just some continuing education, I would check out the Office Resources section. When you go to view all resources, everything in this section is free and included with your software subscription. So you can see we have a visual impression tips section. We have some other really cool webinars that we've done in the past. Some are very specific to the software, and some of them are more general to the industry, but super helpful. My favorite part of the training platform is if I'm looking for something specific, I could come in and I could actually type in that thing. So today we were working with visual materials in visual impression. And let's say you want to refine your skills in that area. When I type in visual material, it will show me every class or webinar that we reference or talk about visual materials. So this is going to collect everything from paid courses to free courses and everything in between. Now, if you are looking at some of those paid courses, we do have a really great promotion that goes to the end of June. If you'd like to sign up for a class, you can use the code THINKBIG to save 10% on any on-demand or instructor-led courses on the training platform. Thank you guys so much for your time today. If you have any questions in the future, you can email us at office.training@2020spaces.com, or you can also join our Facebook group and stay connected and ask questions to us or other people in the industry. Thanks so much for your time today.